Welcome to a brand new episode of This Week in Apps. I'm Ariel from Appfigures, and I have 5 interesting things you need to know about the world of mobile apps and games for this week. Kind of like normal because it is normal. But before I get to the insights, I have a question for you. Are you a developer, a designer, a product manager maybe? Maybe you're just curious about apps? I'd really love to get to know my audience, so please leave a comment and let me know what you do. Okay. Now we can get into the insights, and we'll start with a monthly tradition. 2023 has been a very strong year in mobile revenue for Twitter. The last time I looked at revenue, which was in March, Twitter hit a new all-time high. Now that April is behind us, we can see where revenue from the App Store, where most of Twitter's revenue is coming from, is heading. It's heading up high. According to our estimates, Twitter's App Store net revenue continued to grow in April and hit a new peak of $3.5 million, and that's net, meaning what Twitter gets to keep after giving Apple its share. This haul is 13.5% higher than March, which is a pretty decent growth rate. It's not breaking any speed records, but it's also very healthy and far better than what we've seen from Twitter pre-Elon. I know Elon is a very controversial topic these days, and I'm sure someone will point out how this revenue isn't worth the drop in advertiser revenue. If I looked at Twitter's overall revenue, this would be an interesting argument, but I'm only focused on app revenue because that journey is fairly new to a platform like Twitter and will likely serve as the template for other companies like it. So that's why I'm interested in it. Leave all the politics on the side. Oh, and so far this year, Twitter's mobile revenue grew 118%, according to our estimates. But that's actually only half the story, the good half. In downloads, Twitter's trend is heading in the other direction, which is down. According to our estimates, Twitter's iOS app made its way into 3.8 million iPhones in April. And another side note, Twitter is plenty popular on Android, but to align with where revenue is, I'm only looking at the App Store here. So if you're curious about Android revenue, leave me a comment and I'll share that. 3.8 million is a decent amount of downloads, but it's 17% lower than March. When compared to January, the drop is even higher, 32%. Completely ignoring politics, Elon's direction, or the latest competitor trying to take users away, growing revenue while downloads are dropping isn't bad at all. This is not the first time we see this, and probably not the last. A big user base of non-paying users can be a goldmine when monetized correctly, and a good reminder to developers that if you're not thinking about monetization, regardless of which stage you're in, you're leaving money on the table. Moving on, April is over, which means it's time to crunch the numbers and rank the most downloaded apps in the world for the month. And I don't want to say I told you so, but I definitely called this one. Let's start at the top though, and then we'll get to the interesting bit. Instagram, not very interesting, was the most downloaded app in the world in April, just like in March. It ended April with 44 million new downloads from the App Store and Google Play combined, according to our estimates. Arch nemesis TikTok wasn't right behind it as expected. I know. Instead, sibling Facebook was, ending the month with 38 million downloads according to our app intelligence, which you can actually get to see estimates on your competitors in your field. I'll drop a link in the description and maybe even a discount. We'll see. Facebook sneaking in between Instagram and TikTok is actually really weird. It hasn't happened in a long time. Instagram and TikTok have been a pair for so long, I was forced to go back through all of the most downloaded app lists and find the time they weren't, and that took me all the way back to March of 2021, 2 years ago. But not to worry, TikTok was right behind Facebook with 37 million downloads in April, according to our estimates. WhatsApp and CapCut round out the top 5 for April across both stores, adding 31 million and 27 million new users to their pools, according to our estimates. Again, I always say according to our estimates because I want you to know they're estimates. I've been watching CapCut for quite some time now, waiting for it to rise to dominance. Why? Because the video editor market is full of money and there aren't really that many competitors. There are a few established names like Facetune and Splice that rake in millions every month, and CapCut can easily take over all of that thanks to its sibling TikTok. CapCut was the most downloaded app on the App Store in April, adding almost half of its downloads from there and slowly rising up the revenue charts as well. That's the interesting bit. I expect it to rise to dominance and ahead of the incumbents by the summer. Other than CapCut, there isn't much interesting in April. Meta and Google dominate the lists, and we kind of already know that and expect that. According to our estimates, the top 10 most downloaded apps in the world made their way into 270 million devices in April. That's a lot, but that's a 12% drop from March, and it's pretty noticeable pretty much across the board. I also crunched the numbers and ranked the most downloaded games in April. It noticed an interesting trend, and it's not about hyper-casual games this time, I promise. Subway Surfers was the most downloaded mobile game in the world in April, making its way into 18 million pockets, according to our estimates. If you've been following the monthly series, you know Subway Surfers has been the king for a very long time, and April is no different. I think that's good. Moving down one is where things get interesting. Dream 11, no space for some reason, was the second most downloaded game in the world in April, adding 16 million new users in April. In case you're not familiar, because I wasn't, Dream 11 is a fantasy cricket app that's only available in India. Keyword here is India and only. A game that's only available in India made its way to the top of the most downloaded games list in the world in April. That's pretty wild. India is a huge opportunity for mobile developers, one that everyone should at least be considering putting focus on. It's not easy. It's the kind of thing that you have to actually do right, but it's how Instagram continues to grow every month. Roblox, Candy Crush Saga, and Attack Hole, and no jokes please, I didn't invent this name, round out the top 5 most downloaded games in the world in April with 14 million, 13 million, and 12 million downloads respectively, according to our App Intelligence. Oh, and Dream 11 isn't the only fantasy cricket game on our list. My 11 Circle, another fantasy cricket game, made its way into the 7th place on the list with 10 million downloads, again, only from India. One interesting bit from April is the winner on the App Store. Monopoly Go is a brand new game that's seen quite a few downloads since launching in early April. Also, quite a bit of revenue, $3.3 million of revenue from the App Store, and that's net. Together, the top 10 most downloaded games in the world made their way into 124 million pockets in April. That's pretty much the same as March, which means there's no reason for concern. Speaking of money, AI chatbots have really taken over the App Store. This isn't the first time I said that. It's actually the third, almost back to back. And while this may not last forever, and it probably won't, it's very hot right now, like millions of downloads and dollars hot, and that's plenty hot. I've seen quite a few AI chatbot apps make it into the App Store over the last few weeks and have been asked by many if they should get into it as well. Why? Because it's kind of easy. It's really in demand, and did I say easy? Most AI chatbot apps provide a native interface for ChatGPT and use very aggressive pricing to charge more than what ChatGPT actually costs on the web. And the web interface is simple enough. That's how I do all of my ChatGPTing. Definitely a verb. Too easy to be worth Bitcoin, right? Wrong. I used Explorer to identify all of the apps that have AI and chatbot in their name and are making more than $1 million in net revenue per month on the App Store. It's super easy to do with Explorer. If you want me to show you how, let me know in the comments. That search identified exactly 5 apps, which is exactly 5 apps more than I thought I would find. The apps are AI Chat, Genie AI Smith, Ask AI, and Chat On. And this list is ranked by revenue since the beginning of the year for all of these apps. According to our estimates, the 5 apps in the Million Club have earned a little over $20 million of net revenue from the App Store since January together. And that's net, meaning what the happy developers get to keep and probably reinvest into ads because that's important. Apple got about $8 million in fees so far from 5 apps. If you're a developer and you've used any of these apps, you can guess how long they took to build. I also summed them up and plotted their daily revenue over time so I can see where it started and where it is now. In January, the group earned a total of $2.9 million of net revenue. That's in January, when ChatGPT was brand new. All apps were around at that time, except for Ask AI. Keep that in mind. The total rose to $3.9 million in March, and then ballooned to $9.8 million in April. And you probably know this by now, but this is all net, meaning what the developers get to keep. I tried a bunch of these apps, and while they're just a little different, they're really all the same. I wonder when OpenAI will just release its own mobile app, or when users will realize they can access ChatGPT for free online or for less money. And last for this week, sports and streaming go together like peanut butter and jelly. That definitely sounded better in my head, but while cheesy, it is true. We've seen direct streaming work for quite a few sports over the last year, with the NFL being the last to jump on. With the NBA Finals raging, go Knicks. I wanted to see how the NBA's official app is doing in terms of streaming revenue, and the easy answer is very well. The NBA's official app has seen the most revenue ever during the 2022-2023 season. Our estimates show that between October and May, the app earned a total of $21.4 million of net revenue from the App Store. And again, that's net, meaning after giving Apple roughly $9 million in fees. The 2021-2022 season, which lasted a bit longer, brought in a total of $14.9 million in net revenue from the App Store, according to our estimates. That means the NBA saw a 43% increase in revenue year over year. And when compared to the previous season, which started extra late because of COVID, but also forced everyone to go digital because of COVID, so maybe that's even, that number grows to 60%. Clearly, streaming in-app is a good strategy. Which sport will be next to make the leap? Guess in the comments and we'll see in the future. And that's all I have for you this week. If you've learned something new, make sure to hit the like button. I like that. See what I did there? I'll see you next week.